Welcome to this presentation on the internationalization strategies of SAIC and Hyundai. I'll begin by introducing each company before focusing on why, when, and how their businesses have become multinational. I will focus on the methods they have used to achieve internationalization before considering the degree to which each company is internationalized. I will compare and contrast both companies' approaches and the success factors involved to try and determine which has been most effective. I've chosen to analyse two car companies because of the automobile industry's significant impact on modern-day globalization. Shanghai Automotive Industry Corporation, also known as SAIC, was founded in 1955 and is headquartered in Shanghai, China. Hyundai, on the other hand, was founded in 1967 and is headquartered in Seoul, South Korea. Both companies are publicly listed, and the Chinese government is a majority shareholder in SAIC Motors. Now, there are a number of reasons why firms may choose to internationalize. These reasons are shown in the table. For both SAIC and Hyundai, most of their internationalization has predominantly been market and capability seeking, looking for increased management expertise and innovation knowledge. In order to meet these strategic objectives, both companies have made significant foreign direct investments, including joint ventures, acquisitions, and greenfield investments. Dunning's OLI or eclectic paradigm demonstrates why a company may choose an FDI. It expresses that a company is in a position to make an FDI when there are ownership, locational, and internalization benefits to be made. Now let's look at the internationalization strategy of SAIC. SAIC were early movers in internationalization from China. However, this was late compared to car companies from other nations. And this was due to China being very close to FDI and working with other nations until the late 1970s, when policies such as the open door policy came in. SAIC's main entry modes for internationalization have consisted of joint ventures and acquisitions. In 1984, SAIC began a joint venture with Volkswagen, allowing them to produce products under the Volkswagen, Skoda, and eventually Audi brands. This strategic alliance enabled them to gain access to significant resources, such as increased management capabilities and improved R&D, whilst it gave VW the opportunity to enter the China's automobile market. It was a similar story with SAIC's other critical joint venture with General Motors, which allowed them to manufacture Buick, Chevrolet, and Cadillac products. This similarly gave SAIC increased resources and capabilities within the American automotive industry. And although these joint ventures didn't contribute to taking SAIC overseas directly, they strengthened SAIC's product offerings and consolidated its place in China's domestic market. They also helped to build the reputation of SAIC. But it was the acquisitions and greenfield investments which really began to grow SAIC's overseas presence. The most significant of which was in 2007, when its merger with Nanjing Automobile led to SAIC acquiring the MG brand. MG was originally a British brand and has been the driving force of lots of SAIC's recent internationalization success. Today it is the fastest growing brand in the UK due to lower priced innovative electric vehicles. And self-owned brands such as MG and Maxus are SAIC's strategy to moving forward to continue growing in overseas markets. They also have a subsidiary known as SAIC Anji Logistics, which operates 4 international shipping routes. This gives SAIC control over increasing demands for automotive exports from China, and has been a significant factor in the success of SAIC's rollout of MG products. SAIC's internationalization can be seen in the map here. Now let's have a look at Hyundai. Hyundai made significant internationalization progress in its early years through exports. In 1996, they were exporting over 560,000 units, whereas SAIC has only reached export levels of this magnitude in the past few years. And this is a wider trend. If you look at this graph here, you can see that China's exports have only increased since the pandemic when it comes to the automobile industry. And that the pandemic was around when Tesla opened their factory in China. But moving back to Hyundai, Um, its initial strategic goals saw new markets due to domestic market saturation, so their exports were predominantly targeting US, Europe, and other regions. For Hyundai to get to this level of exports that they did, they began internationalization at a similar time to SAIC, but with a joint venture with Japanese company Mitsubishi in the 1980s. They also began an overhaul of their production process. In 1996, they strategically worked with 329 suppliers and subcontractors, working towards a just-in-time supply chain model, enabling them to reduce their inventory days to zero point 0.6 days. They invested in some of their suppliers, helping to modernize their processes, as well as acquiring some of their suppliers. This enabled a more cost-effective model for Hyundai to and a close relationship with suppliers, which allowed them to innovate alongside them, improving their R&D capabilities. Some note that Hyundai should be regarded as a primary innovator of supplier associations, setting them apart from SAIC in this area. Furthermore, a significant factor of Hyundai's internationalization success was the acquisition of Kia in 1998, and its investments in brands such as Genesis, which focus on the more luxury end of the market, allowing Hyundai to accelerate into new markets. Similar to SAIC, Hyundai's subsidiary Hyundai Glovis Limited is a global shipping and logistics company operating 13 international routes to export Hyundais globally. Lastly, both companies have set up finance and insurance subsidiaries to help support customers who buy their products both overseas and domestically. And although these make up a small proportion of total revenue, they've been critical in executing sales in recent years. Both companies also have R&D locations across the globe, particularly in Western nations, enabling them to be at the forefront of innovation, particularly as they both focus on this move towards electric vehicles. Now let's look at the degree to which both of these companies are internationalized. And in order to quantify the depth and breadth of internationalization, the work of Sullivan is somewhat effective. He deemed a firm's internationalization as something that could be determined by focusing on 5 key variables. These include the proportion of overseas sales to total sales, the proportion of overseas assets to total assets, the proportion of overseas subsidiaries to total subsidiaries, and the top manager's international experience, and the psychic dispersion of international operations, which can be seen in this table here. By applying these to SAIC and Hyundai, one can clearly see that Hyundai is more internationalized. For instance, SAIC's board of directors appear to have little to no experience or education internationally, whereas Hyundai have a multinational board of directors, most of whom have attended universities in Western nations. Despite Sullivan's work being helpful to an extent, others such as Ramaswamy and others have criticized it for being too simplistic and have called for further refinement when seeking to measure how internationalized a firm is. They particularly note how Sullivan's model is open to substitutability, where all the variables are equally weighted to the overall internationalization. This could lead to a skewed representation of a firm's degree of internationalization. That said, they are helpful variables when used carefully. Overall, both companies have successfully internationalized to a high degree, with Hyundai's internationalization taking place to a further degree than that of SAIC, most notably due to its domestic market being much smaller than that of SAIC. This can be seen in the table here, where China is quite significantly the largest automobile market. Furthermore, Hyundai operates under the Hyundai brand, as well as its other brands, meaning it is more recognizable and renowned worldwide, which may be part of its internationalization success. That said, SAIC is a much larger company and its degree of internationalization is exponentially increasing, with 1.2 million overseas sales predicted by 2025. It'll be interesting to see how SAIC can catch up and what their and that will be it'll be interesting to see how they can catch up, and that will be a real challenge with Hyundai's high level of innovation in recent years, which has won them multiple design awards. It will be interesting to see what the future of internationalization looks like, and it is critical to remember that increased multinationality does not necessarily lead to greater organizational value, as Agarwal and others have pointed out. Thank you for listening to this presentation. My references can be found in the final slide.